Okay, so in today's video we're going to take a look at a product from Laser Ammo, which is called the Laser Bolt. And this particular one obviously is for fitting the 223 AR platform. So as you can see, it comes obviously in a nice little sort of box, obviously with like a plastic inner housing here. So obviously, and this particular one I purchased is the infrared laser at the 780 nanometer range. Again, less than 1 milliwatt. It does say 2W here, which when I first saw that I thought 2 watts. Yeah, that's a bit too powerful, but I'm guessing that's some sort of branding logo on there. But yeah, so this fits obviously AR15 rifles manufactured like obviously the Sig Sauer, and there's obviously sort of like a Heckler & Koch and other sort of brands here. You need to check to make sure obviously this is compatible with your AR platform. This particular one I got here is the 223 Schmeissner. And it fits obviously this particular brand. I checked that beforehand to obviously verify that it fits this this AR. Again, power source, whatever it has, it's a battery. It's a CR123A battery. I'll show that in the video when we open it up and take a look. And obviously you can use this for the real-time virtual ranges, the electronic targets, and your kind of static sort of like laser targets. But obviously in a visible range, obviously you can see where the laser strike is, but for AR you're kind of looking at obviously electronic targets that support that, or the virtual simulators. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the box. So it's like a plastic outer shroud. It has like a ratchet system on there. It's a bit tricky to, so I'm trying to open it without flinging it across the room. Takes a bit of effort there. There you go. So you obviously have two pieces. So let's go ahead and put that to one side a second. So inside, if we slide it out, you get your actual laser bolt itself. As you can see here, obviously a kind of polymer or hardened ABS-like type plastic that represents the bolt. And obviously this is the WLB15 model here. And again, sort of like obviously this is all internal, so you have obviously sort of like a replacement for your bolt in your AR. And I guess obviously, you know, from a sort of mil spec, although mil spec is really only the buffer tube, but if it's an AR15 upper bolt, so if you've got the kind of 223, obviously sort of this is a straight pull rifle, but obviously any sort of semi-auto AR platform this will fit. Again, check on the instructions, whatever, that they have a list of rifles that are supported, but just to ensure that obviously you do have support for your rifle. Again, on here you have a connector here, which obviously allows you to connect into the trigger for obviously actuating the laser. A little on-off switch there, and then underneath here you have a three-way kind of like sort of 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions. You can adjust the laser's behaviour based on whether you're shooting on the virtual range, static electronic targets. There's some instructions, and we'll cover that on the video. Okay, so put that to one side. Take a look at the rest. So here we have our trigger, obviously connector. So that was the connector I mentioned that fits into here. So you essentially just push that in. You have to make sure you get the slot lined up here. So just obviously verify that snaps in. It's got a kind of heat shrink here to sort of protect it. So you want to make sure you pinch it as close as possible when you want to pull it out, to make sure you don't put too much strain on it. And it just literally pulls out. But obviously, you know, that's something to watch. Again, on this one, obviously you have your kind of curvature here for the rear of the trigger guard. So this is where the device sits within the trigger. Now, obviously, sort of like looking at this initially, when I first got this out of the box, I had a quick look. You've got these spacers, which we'll talk about in a little while, and they're kind of magnetic. They sit in here, and you adjust them for your space on the trigger. But when I first got this, I kind of couldn't see how this would ever fit in here. It didn't seem to want to fit into the trigger guard. And then I suddenly realised that there's a kind of breakaway magnetic strip here, which I'll show you in instructions. Doesn't show that clearly. So initially I thought, oh, this wasn't compatible with my rifle, but it just literally snaps off. It's got these magnets here that just allow it to snap back in. So obviously with that removed, you can easily sort of put that into behind your trigger, on your trigger guard here. So you can see how that sort of sits there. So in this video we're only going to sort of talk about the sort of unboxing, sort of like, and just go through some of the kit that's in the box, and obviously just briefly talk about that. In another video I'll have this set up in the rifle, and then we'll do a third video doing a shoot, and obviously see how it performs. But to sort of like try to keep these videos short, we'll break it down into 3. Okay, so that's that. Also in the box you get your instructions here, which we'll have a quick look at in a second. Additional, you get these spacers. So this is the spacer additional spacers that you saw here, so they're all color coded and they have a thickness on here, so you get the correct sort of snugness between this surface and the rear of the trigger, and we'll talk about that in instructions shortly. So you get additional spacers there, and you can see they're kind of all different thicknesses and different color coordinations, so you can obviously remember which color you chose. And just to quickly show you this one, you have, and it just magnetically drops into there and just sits in this little recess. Okay, so what else do we have? Obviously just look a cardboard insert, and then they give you obviously an Allen key wrench and a little screwdriver here to adjust the laser parameters. Okay, so let's have a quick look at obviously instructions. So you have the quick start guide for the WLB15 Wespe based laser bolt, and in here obviously you get sort of instructions regarding how to obviously install the bolt in the upper receiver, and obviously then choose your plate buffer for your trigger. Obviously insert the trigger, and as you can see here, it shows you obviously step 3 here where you select your buffer, but then it just shows you it's sat inside the upper receiver. Now I did see here eventually that obviously got the 3 little dots that show the, as I mentioned before, if you remove this edge you can see these 3 dots here, which are like the magnets themselves. Initially when I first saw that, I kind of didn't make that association, so I was trying to work out how to slide it inside the back of the trigger. But obviously, you know, you can see here where they got in step 5, you can add that plate in, and then obviously it sits there snugly. So just a slight oversight on my part. And then you've got information here regarding how to obviously align the laser. So obviously when you have the laser initially, you can switch it on if it's visible and bore sight it in terms of your 0 for your optic, or if it's obviously infrared, you're going to need to obviously sort of like fire some shots and zero it in that way. And then you have your different laser modes that we talked about here. So you have your 12 o'clock, which is state 0, which is steady on for adjusting obviously the laser in the barrel, but again infrared or obviously visible is going to make it a slightly different process. 3 o'clock position is push on, which means dry fire drills without electric targets. Number 2, which is 6 o'clock position, have electronic target mode for training with electronic targets. And then obviously third one, 9 o'clock position, is your virtual range, so like your smokeless range type simulators. And then obviously it talks about deinstallation, how to remove it, and again we'll cover that when we do it in the next video when we install it in the rifle. And there's some additional ones here about how to obviously remove the battery and so forth. But we'll have a quick look inside. So we'll take so you basically have one obviously screw here and another one underneath, and they give you the Allen key wrench. So we'll have a quick look. And the battery on this one came pre-installed. So now you've got to be very careful with this kind of ABS polymer. You don't want to over tighten. So I'll just quickly loosen this one. We just need to quickly loosen that out. The one underneath doesn't seem to come out very far, so I'll just loosen it off. Again, it's kind of just pinch tight, so you just need to loosen that down. Doesn't need to come all the way out, doesn't really drop out. There's this kind of O-ring seal here, so you'll need to remove that. If I try to lift it off, you'll see what I mean. So if I lift it off, it's kind of secured by that O-ring. Well, not secured, but that O-ring is in place to obviously help with the buffer, the actual bolt insertion into the upper receiver. So you just need to obviously manhandle this O-ring and remove that. Might be easier just to do it with a bit of help here. And you just slide that over and off and out of the way. And then obviously your top comes off, and there's your 2 pieces. So again, inside you have your kind of connector. You can see here you've got obviously your switch for on-off power. Underneath there is an LED here which shows you, so when the laser is activated, this LED will illuminate. So obviously if it's on all the time, this will be on, and obviously it's pulsing with each shot, this will illuminate, so you can do that as a kind of diagnostic check. The battery itself, you know, I'll take this out here. This came with this Panasonic lithium CR123A type battery. Pretty common, easy to obtain those. Again, this was installed with the bolt already. There was no kind of like plastic kind of sort of slip that you normally see on electronics to stop it from sort of discharging, but I don't know how long this battery's been in this bolt. I haven't checked its voltage, whatever, or sort of capacity at the moment, so I'm just leaving it as is, and we'll see how we go. But normally, you know, these type of things, you might get like a plastic sort of isolator from the electronics to show that obviously, you know, that it's installed but it's not drawing any power. Again, I don't know whether this has any passive draw when it's obviously inside, but just because it's connected, you just need to be kind of conscious of that. So I would say, obviously, I don't know in instructions if it mentions it, but they do mention it in their other products to remove the batteries for a long time sort of storage. So if you're not using the bolt and any length of time, or their other kind of laser devices to remove the batteries. So I guess follow that practice. Okay, so just to reinstall, you just literally need to put the housing back on. Obviously, you need to put the rear end in first to sort of lock it in place, and then it just drops on. Again, the O-ring seal, you can either install it now or after you've done up the screws, but that just slides back over and into place, as you can see there. And it's just a case of obviously reinserting the screws. And again, you know, just to make sure you don't over tighten these. They don't need to be tight, because when they're in the kind of upper receiver, they're not going anywhere essentially. So you just want to kind of nip them up, just so they're kind of almost just pinch tight, but no more than that. Otherwise you can strip the threads pretty easy on this ABS plastic. Okay, so go ahead and do that one on this side. Just nip that up. Okay, that'll do. And again, the screwdriver they supply, obviously, you know, it's nice to have, but you've got your own whatever. But you can see, I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but in here there's an actual physical rotating head with an arrow on there, which points to the kind of 12, 3, 9, 6 and 9 o'clock position. So that is probably not very easy to see on the camera, but you can obviously dial that in and adjust that based on the instructions. So if you're looking here, this is essentially what you're looking at here. There's a little screw head that you can obviously adjust these settings based on your laser mode that you desire. Okay, so basically, just in summary, then obviously that's the kind of laser bolt. So I'd be quite used. You know, I'm looking forward to using this. Again, you know, sort of like make sure you check before you buy that this is going to be compatible with your rifle, because you know you don't want to obviously spend money on this and then find it's not. So it might be worth doing that. Interestingly, this particular rifle wasn't listed as part of their rifles which are supported. I did sort of like take a risk on that, and then basically, you know, looking at this, when I removed the bolt and inserted this in the upper receiver just to sort of check for connection and it fits perfectly. So I'm pretty sure there's probably quite a number of rifles they haven't listed as being compatible, which will work with this, but just bear that in mind before you get this. Okay, so just a quick sort of like summary then. Obviously I'm going to do another video and install it in this particular Schmeiser AR platform, and then show the obviously setup of obviously just getting the rifle set up, and then we'll do a third video of me shooting this on the simulators, and we'll see how it goes. Again, one thing to mention quickly, this obviously has a Strike Eagle vortex scope here, which is a 1 to 8 I think, and obviously you need to have an optic really that's going to be 1 magnification, either a red dot or some other sort of like, you know, 0 magnification or 1 times magnification on your optic, because obviously shooting it within sort of like your confines of your garage or wherever you are on the simulators, you unless you're sort of like a certain distance away where you can have a magnifier, it's going to be tricky. I mean, you can fall back to iron sights or co-witness through your red dot if you need to. But yeah, okay, so first of all, you know, first impressions, looks pretty good build quality. Don't see any sort of like issues regarding any sort of like burring or stuff on here that would cause problems. And as I mentioned, I've already pre-fitted and tested this, so it looks like it's okay. We'll cover that in more detail in the next video. But apart from that, guys, thanks for watching.